Today is January 16th, 2024, and the Shea Station podcast is back.
Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull up my pants. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shea Station.
Welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. That brand new tune was courtesy of Greg the Jingle Man and Jordan Simpson, some of the best Mets fans around. Gotta thank them, and gotta thank my co-host, Jerry Blevins, who I haven't checked in with since May 5th, 2023. Now, we've talked since then as well. But Jerry, for the first time in a while, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm great. It's so good to be back. It's been kind of a long, drawn-out process, of course. We were trying to figure out different ways to bring this back. And it's really a labor of love between you and I and Audio Jack, kind of bringing this together on our own for the most part,
right.
You know. But this is what we want. This is what the people have been clamoring for. We're excited. Every time I would see, like, bring back Shea Station, I'm like, we're trying, we're doing our best. We can't talk about it. But here we are with a new jingle, which is incredible. Fired up about it. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I mean, the most frequent DM I got was, when is the farewell episode of Shea Station? And I felt bad because I left those people unanswered. But it was because I always kind of felt like, well, show's not over, guys. Show's not done yet, so I can't say goodbye. And here we are. We're back. Things will be a little bit different this year. Me and Jerry have a ton of things going on. Jerry is still doing great stuff at SNY. Jerry was in a documentary recently as well. Don't want to spoil too much there. Sorry if I did.
Oh, we'll drop it at the end.
Yeah. And then, of course, me with the JM Baseball stuff on my own channel. So we are going to be doing the show weekly instead of every Mets series, but we'll still be coming at you. Jerry will be on bi-weekly, and every other week I'll be filling in with a co-host based on the opponent that the Mets were playing or just another Mets creator themselves. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're a fellow creator, a fellow podcast person, reach out to me. Let's see if we can set something up. But, right now we have a whole Mets shebang to talk about because it's been quite an interesting offseason. I don't know if you can call it active. The word I've been using is weird.
I think it's fitting. I do think it's been active. Obviously, it's underwhelming for most. But again, this has been a weird transition year. I know there's a lot of people upset, but they did what they've been telling us they were going to do. They took a huge shot, the biggest shot for Yamamoto, who was an outlier, who was a guy that they thought no matter what they do this season, he's going to fit into their future plan. So they took the biggest shot at the highest offer to get him. But other pieces fell into place. Since they didn't get him, they kind of fell back to their plan B. And their plan B was never the next top guys because they don't feel like bang for their buck is there.
Right.
And so they've stuck to their guns. And a lot of people are not happy with how it's gone. But I'm content with it. This is a feeling out process. And I kind of like what I'm seeing. I kind of like sticking to your guns, doing what you said you're going to do, keeping the farm system intact for a bigger move down the way. Again, they've made some moves. This team is still competitive. The roster is still very good. You noted in the show notes that this is the second highest payroll in the game.
Right.
And I think they'll be competitive. Obviously, it's stiff competition in the NL East, but if things fall into place the way that at league averages, they've got a shot at making the playoffs and doing some damage.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, 6 playoff spots, anything can happen. You have to see the course of 162. And me and you text a ton, and when the Yamamoto thing went down, it was cool that the Mets made the highest offer and they put themselves in that bidding war, but I think we shared the opinion that he just never really felt like a Met. Like the Yankees were deeming themselves as the top suitor and they were making it known that they were, all fail safe. Like we're getting this guy. And then the Dodgers obviously is an entire another discussion, which we could spend an hour on between deferrals and Ohtani and how much they've added. But I agree with what you said. This is just not the same kind of talented free agent class that we saw the last two off seasons where the Mets, quote unquote, won the offseason, with the Scherzer deal and then the Canna Escobar Marte on the same day, then Verlander last year, Pham, all these additions. There's just not that same kind of echelon of talent, in my opinion. And it is underwhelming to win the offseason 2 years in a row and then kind of be a quiet lurker behind every other team that's making a ton of noise, specifically the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are just mopping up every piece of talent. But arguably the biggest things that the Mets have done have been non-player related. The hiring of David Stearns has been the biggest headline, in my opinion. And then, of course, a new manager on the block, Carlos Mendoza, former bench coach for the Yankees. But all things considered, they have added a ton of players. It's just been a lot of supplemental moves, filling out the rotation with kind of wild card pieces, which is going to be a large part of this discussion, and then shedding talent as well. Vogelback out, Luis Guillorme, an Atlanta Brave, if you can believe that, and then Cookie Carrasco and Adam Ottavino are no longer on the team. So plenty of places to kind of jump to. I'm going to, leave it to you whether you want to start in the rotation, position players, whatever your heart desires, Jerry.
I'm just going to run through the same thing. I live on the edge of everything when it comes to free agency.
It's true.
When it comes to like free agency, I drink the tea. Like when they're like, I thought he was a Yankee for the whole time, and then when he was flirting hard with the Mets, driving that price up, I was like, maybe. Let Uncle Steve talk his way into it. Sure. He's not a billionaire for not being able to be persuasive. So I was like, maybe. I had the hopes up because I think this guy, I think he's going to be worth the contract and then some. I really do. It's the Blake Snells, the Jordan Montgomerys that scare me because of age and the kind of uneven track record, whatever the case may be. I was really excited for Yamamoto. I thought he could be a Met. But outside of that, I've liked the moves. Carlos Mendoza has made a great first impression. For me, seeing just talking to people again, once the signing kind of fell out of the headlines, I still kind of reached out to people that have passed through glowing reviews from everybody. I mean, doesn't mean everything.
I got to meet him at winter meetings, and he was a very nice guy. He was actually it was his first winter meetings in a while, is what he told me in BBD, and first time in 5 years, he was just really happy to be there, happy to chat with people. And at one point, he was just kind of lingering around our press table. And we were like, all right, let's go talk to him, see what's up. And he was super welcoming, super happy to chat with us about whatever it was that we were filming. So my review of him is really good. I'm hoping that, the New York media doesn't try and tear him to shreds early on. And what's looking like it might be a tough season.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to... It's going to be an interesting season. He's well aware of what's going to happen if they're not winning, and he's ready to take that on. If they're not winning, they're going to face some fire, understandably. David Stearns as well. But let's get into the players of it, because I kind of like the moves that they've made. Obviously, they're gambling a little bit more, especially in the rotation. I really like Luis Severino. Yeah. I like the 1 year shoot your shot kind of stopgap, because his upside is tremendous. And I think he can easily fall back into form. Health is a different story, yes. But when he's healthy, I think there was a lot of factors that have been covered, from tipping. My favorite aspect of baseball and sports in general, especially pitching, because that's what I know, is the mental side of it and how much your thought processes can change the outcome and your confidence and shake. He was clearly shaken last year thinking about tipping his pitches. Not only was he worried about tipping his pitches, but that distracts him from thinking about how to get big league hitters out, thinking about what he wants to throw next, thinking about reading swings. He was just completely distracted, and he got taken advantage of. The league has caught up to him velocity-wise, so he's still elite, but it's not standout like it normally is. And I think it's an easy fix for him to fall back into his average self. So if he's healthy, I think he's going to have been one of the steals of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, pitching coach Jeremy Hefner is going to have his hands full with kind of a lot of reclamation projects, if you will, in this rotation and the bullpen as well. But Sevy, I think, is the most interesting one. I asked Jack before the show when I was designing the thumbnail, who do you think is the most high-profile signing? And we both kind of agreed that it was Severino. It's a 1-year, $13 million contract. Obviously, when you look at the 2023 numbers, they're not pretty. His ERA was 35% worse than league average with a 65 ERA plus, but go back just 1 year prior. It's only 102 innings, but a 3.18 ERA. The whip right at 1 is really nice as well. He was managing base runners very well. It's just, can the Mets dial into this velocity and figure out a better pitch shape for his fastball? Because his fastball, while it was coming in hot, 96 miles per hour on average, it was pinned straight and it was getting tattooed by big league hitters who have adjusted to the velocity, like you said. I think there's something here, though. Sevy's still young. He's going to be 30 years old in 2024, so there's obviously still play there. And this kind of feels like something of a pillow contract for him. We've been seeing the crazy money that starting pitchers are getting. Obviously, Monty and Snell haven't signed yet, but they're probably going to get big paydays, and you wouldn't have expected them to if you asked yourself maybe in 2022 before the seasons that they had. So Sevy, he's kind of betting on himself a little bit. I feel like maybe he could have found a multi-year deal somewhere else. He takes the 1-year deal to stay in New York. If he pitches well this season, he's going to hit another weak free agent market and could possibly cash in for a bigger deal. So he's got something to play for, and the Mets have something to play for with him because he's slotted in right now as their number 3 behind Kodai Senga, who's become the ace of the staff. What a wonderful sentence that is. And then Jose Quintana, who's in the second year of a 2-year deal. So Sevy is a huge X factor, probably the biggest X factor for the Mets pitching staff altogether. So I'm really curious to see what kind of changes they make, whether they, ask him to add a sink ball pitch or something like that, which is what they kind of found in Adrian Houser, who we'll get to. But Sevy is a very interesting case.
I honestly think it's much simpler than that. It's not just like shape. This isn't an analytical thing for me. This is a mental approach to the game of baseball. Get out of your own head, get out of your own way. He has talked about it. There were some interviews that we covered on SNY where he was saying that's all he was thinking about was, worrying about tipping his pitches. And then when he's on the mound, he's like, all right, he would give up a big hit on a fastball. And he's like, all right, was it because I tipped and they knew it was coming, or was it because it was the wrong pitch, or was it because of the location, or was it because I'm too worried? Like, he was just in his own head for the entire season. And if they can get him out of it and just focus on pitching, even if you throw that hard, you have a good shape to your pitch. Even if they know it's coming, it's a lot harder to hit than they think it is. So I think he's an easy bounce back candidate. Again, health is the biggest concern for me because I think the mental side, he'll be a lot easier to get back in. I think it's going to be a steal of free agency.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets have taken flyers on pretty much exclusively wild card candidates. The other one being Sean Manaea, which is the most recent one, who we actually got to meet at Oakland A's camp a couple of years ago when we went to spring training. Super nice guy, as tall as he looks on TV as well. He was absolutely
he is a monster. He's a big boy.
He gets it
between him and Severino. They're both huge.
Yeah, true. So maybe that's the profile they're trying to build. I don't know.
Yeah.
Manaea, he gets a 2-year, $28 million contract, which is probably more than you'd expect him to, except for, the fact that his last 14 outings, he was really sharp for the Giants. He added a sinker. He ditched his sinker for a 4-seam fastball and added 2 miles per hour to his velocity. So it kind of becomes one of these things where, like, you're not necessarily paying for Sean Manaea over his career. You're paying for Sean Manaea these last 3 months of the last season or whatever you want to call it. His numbers overall weren't fantastic, but the Mets are kind of banking on the fact that maybe he is a newer kind of guy, and they give him this 2-year deal with an opt-out as well. So again, a kind of another, player-friendly contract that he's likely, bidding for maybe something larger in the future. He slots in as the team's number 4. I've always kind of liked Sean Manaea. He had some really good years in Oakland as well. Again, it might be another case of the velo isn't what it used to be. It's not beating hitters anymore, but again, another interesting contract. He fills out the Mets rotation a little bit more. It's interesting to me because it's such a different look than the past 2 years between Scherzer and Verlander. It's just not what Mets fans are accustomed to, which is why I think it's been such a negative reaction, but there's still positives to highlight here.
Yeah. As Severino was a non-analytical thing going for the intangibles, to me, Sean Manaea is the other side of that coin. He is an analytical find I'm not sure that the money is going to be there. I love Sean Manaea.
Right.
First of all, I'm a fan of his. I'm a friend of his, and he is one of the best humans in a clubhouse
He's a
ever.
great human being.
You'll never hear another person talk bad about Sean Manaea as far as a teammate. It just is impossible. Chris Bassett, he's one of Chris Bassett's favorite humans on the planet. Just an incredible dude. I'm not sure. This is where analytics. This is where I'll let them do their due diligence there, and obviously they did. They think they found something. He was a great pitcher. He's never been reliant on velocity. He's never been like an extreme fastball guy. He's always huge, but he threw 90 miles an hour for a lot of his career working on sink. He's a big lefty deceptive guy, a little bit just never a power guy. Good changeup, and I think he's changed his profile, and I believe that they think he's found something. He's up 4 miles an hour from 2019.
Right.
So he's been able to reshape it, and I think this is something that they feel like they found a steal in who they've gotten, and they think he's going to his career trajectory is up from here because they've tapped into the best form of what Sean Manaea could be. And I like the addition because it's another wild card, and it's not a huge investment. This isn't a 6-year deal. This is a possible 1-year deal where he pitches his ass off and he's out into free agency again with an opt-out. And both of those pitchers, if they both click and the team's not playing well, that's flipped for more prospects at the trade deadline. They have a lot of options now. They're flexible, even at their high payroll. They've got a lot of flexibility still. But I like Manaea as a 4 possible upside. I think he's, I believe in what the analytical department of the Mets and Hefner can do. And I believe that he can be who they think he is. So,
yeah, I mean, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. The Mets are setting themselves up for either, a potential wild card spot, being competitive if things turn their way, or another fire sale at the deadline. All of these contracts and the other position player contracts, which we'll get into as well, 1 to 2 years, opt-outs galore. Like, these are movable pieces. So if any of them click, it doesn't necessarily have to be everyone firing on all cylinders at the same time. If any of these guys click, the Mets have a chance to continue restocking their, now highly ranked farm system just outside of the top 10 and continue that push towards that 2025 window, which they alluded to last year. Rounding out the bottom of the rotation is the guy that I think is, you probably know what you're going to get with this guy, much more so than Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. And that's Adrian Houser, which I think is probably maybe the most underrated move Stearns has made this entire offseason. He took Coleman Crowe, who was acquired in the Eduardo Escobar deal, and basically flipped that into a starting pitcher and a corner outfielder, which I think, if you read that on paper, you're very happy about it. Houser is the starter. He threw 111 innings last year with a 4.12 ERA, which was above league average. And he's kind of just been a consistent workhorse and a ground ball specialist his entire career. Since 2021, he has 68 starts with an above league average ERA and a ground ball rate over 50%. It ranks in the top 10 of all of major league pitchers. And the Mets specialize in infield defense. They got a great shortstop in Lindor. Jeff McNeil's been a plus at second base forever, so that will play as well. Hauser's another one of these tall glasses of water, not tall glasses of milk. That's a little deep dive for the old Chase Station listeners there. Grades highly in extension, all that kind of stuff. So he fills out the bottom of the rotation. And yeah, I think you kind of feel like you know what you're going to get. You're probably going to get at least 120 innings. You're going to get a solid ERA. You're not going to get this big time strikeout guy, but he's going to play into soft contact. And against weaker lineups, I think he can really feast off those guys.
I like Adrian Houser. He struck your boy out.
Oh,
he got me. He got me once,
dude.
In Milwaukee. It was a ball. The umpire rung me up, but
I'm
anyway,
gonna have to find that clip. Hang on.
We won't go there. I also fouled one of his curveballs off my leg and almost retired.
Hang on, let me pull.
I like Adrian Houser. Again, this is a piece where they added a guy that gives them flexibility. Now they have a little bit more depth. If Manaea isn't up to par, they can move him to the bullpen. If Hauser's not ready, they can move. They got Peterson, they got McGill, who have to take another step forward that they haven't gotten. They've got a lot of question marks, and they only have to hit on 1 or 2 guys to still be competitive. I am not ready to give up on the season of 2024. I'm not ready to cancel the NL East. Obviously, the team's not planning on winning the NL East. You still got the big bad Braves. You still got the Phillies. The Marlins looked better last year. The Nationals are still a step behind, but they're trying to turn things around. But baseball is baseball. You still have to play the game. You don't know what's going to happen. I think this team has some quality pieces, and if things fall your way, which sometimes they do, this is a very, very good team.
Jerry, I got 2 points to make here. One, I just sent you and Jack the screenshot of your strikeout against Houser. It is a ball, but I think he made a good pitch there, and I think you have to give him a little bit of credit. Hopefully we can throw that on the screen at some point in the episode. And two, yeah, I mean, the Mets are giving themselves a chance to compete in 2024. They're not fully, quote-unquote, punting on the season. Jerry's shaking his head. You don't agree? That's a good pitch.
It's a good pitch. It's a 2-2 pitch to get 3-2 on a pitcher.
If the roles were reversed, wouldn't you want that call?
I mean, of course, I want every call.
Okay.
But it's definitely like it was. And by the way, Eric Kratz behind the plate is also a huge, he's a monster too. So I look even tinier.
Just an all-star cast in that.
But that's definitely a ball. Hopefully you can pop that up.
Yeah, he'll pop that up.
I mean, yeah. Anyway.
But the other thing Stearns has done, which I find really intriguing, and we can't go through every piece because it has been so many, is Stearns has been picking apart relievers from the entire league. The list goes on to about a dozen names at this point, just filling out the Mets depth chart. But the one thing that you should remark on Stearns with his time in Milwaukee is that year in and year out, the Brewers had a fantastic bullpen. And often, you had the star names at the top, Hader in the prior era. Now Devin Williams has been their guy. But filling out the rest of those spots often were guys that were relatively unknown at the time and then, established themselves as stars. Just last year, the guy that really caught my eye was Abner Uribe. He pitched 32 games for them. Really tall, lanky guy who just had wicked stuff, and he was acquired in, I think, the Hunter Renfroe trade. And that's what Stearns really has been good at his entire career, is just finding max value of trades and filling out a bullpen, which, when the Mets were going through their June swoon, was a big reason why they were losing so many games. They were losing games late because they didn't have the relief options outside of, Brooks Raley on a good day and then David Robertson, who was so good for us. So hopefully the Mets are giving themselves a solid chance in that regard. The most high-profile signing was Jorge Lopez, who got a $2 million deal and was really good for the Orioles a couple years ago. Took a step back last year, but yeah, I mean, the relievers are intriguing as well. So the Mets have done a great job in reshaping their pitching staff. We have to see how things will turn out, but they're at least giving themselves an opportunity to reap maximum value out of a lot of these guys.
The bullpen's so fickle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to project guys that come in short bursts like that to actually continue to do that, but Jorge Lopez looks like a bounce back here. His velo was still there. All the signs pointing to, him being successful again. He lost about a mile per hour last year. Probably not feeling 100%.
Right.
He's going to be hungry, and I think that's a good point. This team is going to live and die by how good their bullpen is. I think.
I think it's going to be a big piece, especially because you don't know the health of the rotation.
Yeah, their offense is going to be good enough to keep them in some games. Their starting rotation is going to be good enough to win some ball games at points. And then if their bullpen can hold up at the back end and not tire out the back end guys, if you can get those middle guys to pitch consistently, you need guys like Drew Smith to step way up.
Big year for him.
This is it for him as a Met, I think. This is when he has to do it. If you can get him to step up and a few other pieces to really, really establish themselves, a good bullpen keeps you competitive in close ball games at all times and gives your offense a chance. So I think this will be the backbone. If these guys don't step up, then the season's trash to me.
Yeah.
They still have some work to do in the bullpen, I think. I think they have at least one big arm left to get. I'm not saying get Hader to set up, because I don't think that's in the cards for him, but they got to get at least one more established guy to just be a steady presence back there with Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, one, you don't really know what you're going to get out of Diaz. He hasn't pitched in well over a year, so you can't just rely on him to immediately return to form. I'm sure the Mets have obviously factored that in. And there's still a ton of names on the free agent market for relievers, which is not really the case for basically every other section of the market. And it's a lot of names you're probably familiar with. Aroldis Chapman is available. Colin McHugh, former Met. Obviously, Adam Ottavino still hasn't found a team. So there are names here that the Mets can tap into. David Robertson, old friend as well. So I'm sure that if another move is coming, Stearns has already revealed that I think the Mets have about $10 million left in spending, and he wants to focus on the bullpen. That could mean one big-time arm or maybe 3 solid middle relief arms that he can try and maximize value out of. But I do agree. You got a bunch of guys in the rotation who haven't pitched full seasons in a while. You're probably going to be relying on this bullpen either in short starts or bullpen games in general and digging into those depth starters as well. So the Mets will live and die by this pitching staff because, as you mentioned, the offense, it's kind of in an interesting area right now. We have our core, which the Mets fans can get excited about. You have Nimmo, you have McNeil, Lindor, and Alonso. You know those 4 guys will be at the top. They'll be producing. McNeil, obviously a wild card there, but he finished the season strong. And then outside of that, it gets hairy. You have Starling Marte, who had an injury-riddled season last year. He's playing in lead-om right now, and he looks pretty good, which is nice. DJ Stewart, who is the story of the Mets' second half last year, is slotted in as their DH right now. Not sure how to feel about that, but I'm happy for Stewart, the character, because, he gets to pay for his diapers, which is great. Francisco Alvarez, who was lighting the league on fire in the first half, then had just an awful August, which really tore down all of his numbers. And then Brett Beatty, who was demoted, lost his spot, really did not shine in 2023. I'm not saying that this is one of his last opportunities, but it's getting late early for the third baseman prospect. With, Mark Vientos there. Who knows what's going to happen? So the Mets lineup, the second half of it, kind of in a weird spot. They haven't done a ton to add to it in free agency outside of Joey Wendell to basically replace Luis Guillorme, Harrison Bader to give Nimmo time in left field and possibly hit against lefties, and then, of course, Tyrone Taylor, who was included in the aforementioned Adrian Houser trade. Does any one of these guys, signings or not, guys that were already on the team too, does any of that speak to you as kind of a big-time X factor for this upcoming season?
Well, to me, there's 2 guys that stand out to me. It's Starling Marte, first and foremost.
Yep.
That contract is...
It's got a chance to be ugly.
That is a sore thumb right now. I mean, it was already questionable because of how old he was when they signed him to a 4-year deal. He looked really good for parts of that first season, but since then, obviously, that last year was a loss. They let him kind of dictate his own terms as far as when he was available to play, and he told them when he was ready, and I don't think that worked out. I think they got to take a more aggressive stance with how he's doing, because if he's healthy and he's feeling good, like I saw Andy Martino was down in the Dominican watching him play. Right. Said he looks healthy. So that's a key point for him. So he's a big question mark for me. That might be a cut bait and just swallow your pride and take your losses at some point. That's what I think about that. The other big X factor for me is Jeff McNeil. That guy has to put together a quality season for this offense to be sustainable, because you got Lindor, who's proven himself to be streaky, but a very, very good hitter. You've got Pete Alonso, who's a premier power hitter. But outside of that, you need Jeff McNeil's steady presence. Nimmo at the top, who he may not be hitting leadoff now. I've been getting this weird sense that they're going to move him around. But Jeff McNeil to me is the other question mark, that if he puts together a consistent year like he did in 2022, that gives the Mets a chance with runners on base to be able to do something on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first part 2022, McNeil was hitting 5th a lot of those days, and he doesn't really profile as a prototypical 5 hitter. You want someone with power there, but he was just so good at bringing in runners and finding holes that 2023 did kind of seem like a far cry. Obviously, he finished the season strong. His numbers got around to league average, but it's not what you gave McNeil the extension for. You gave him the extension to compete for the batting title and, be a guy at the top of the lineup that can still produce tons of RBIs despite not having that home run power. As for Marte, I mean, in 2022, he was kind of the cog that made the Mets offense go. When he got hit on the hand by Mitch Keller, that's when things really started to fall apart for the Mets in September, and then obviously the wild card series. And then last year was just kind of a lost season. He had brief glimmers of looking healthy and playing consistently, but nagging injuries just kept him off. I found it interesting that he actually stole more bases last year than he did in 2022 in far less games, 30 less games. But those two, obviously, getting paid big annual money from the Mets, you need them to produce, and hopefully just one of them at the very least can click. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for this lineup to compete with the likes of many other teams in the National League, many other teams in the NL East between the Braves and Phillies who feature potent offenses. And you're not really necessarily expecting any of the Mets, late season and then off season additions to fill that void. I think DJ Stewart is a nice story. We'll see what we can get out of him, likely in this platoon DH, which the Mets are, I think, running back again between Stewart facing the righties there, and then possibly something else for the lefties. Maybe Tyrone Taylor gets some playing time there. Bader had really tough numbers last year, couldn't really hit righties. Maybe the Mets will find him in a platoon as well. But, I think Mets fans are longing for the 2022 days where we would get basically the same lineup every day, at least the same top four day in and day out. And these guys would just find ways to rally and string together hits. And hopefully that identity isn't completely lost on this 2024 team. But everyone's getting a little bit older, like you said, I think the Nimmo point is pretty interesting. If Nimmo's going to hit me 20 home runs and not necessarily steal bases, I don't necessarily want him batting leadoff. Maybe he's a guy that fits in as your 3-hitter or your 5-hitter, something like that. Because quietly, he had a very good season last year, 127 OPS plus and 24 home runs. Like that happened basically under the rug, underneath everything else. So this Mets lineup, man, I see the vision. I see it there. But a lot of things, like the rotation, have to turn the Mets' way.
Yeah, there's just so many question marks. That's the thing for me. That's why.
Did you see that?
Did you see it? Yeah, it does that. It's look, Chuck. If I do two,
can I do it? Is that a thing? What is
it's
this?
It's I got a new computer, and so my MacBook. There it is.
What the?
This happened on live TV, by the way. Look at this one. Hold on. Let me get
Oh no, it's snowing inside.
For you audio listeners,
if you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out. That's all.
Yeah, new Mac update for Zoom. They do all the emojis. So if you put your thumbs up, you get like a little
That's
cloud
huge.
thumb up.
That's huge.
There's some of them that are pretty cool. Hold on. I've messed with this on TV.
Oh yeah, rock on, dude. Looking good. Oh my god.
Anyway,
in the club.
So for me, the reason why Marte and to a little bit lesser extent McNeil are big question marks is this team has a lot of question marks on who prospects are.
Yeah, true.
So if Marte is not producing and he looks like he does last year, he's not getting playing time.
Yeah.
I think they will pull him out, cut him, trade him, give another team a chance to do it because they have too many guys that they need to see what they've got. So if this team falls behind quite a bit and he looks the same as he did last year, I think they cut bait. And I think McNeil, is a different kind of animal because he brings so much more defensively. But Marte was a liability in the outfield when he was out there too, right, because he was so unhealthy and he wasn't being honest about how he wasn't being honest about how he feels. And so they were running him out there and he was holding the team back by not being healthy, staying in the lineup and hurting the outfield. So if he's healthy, he's in. If he's not, he's out. So to me, DJ Stewart gets a run if Marte shows up and looks like he did last year. So yeah, I think there's Tyrone Taylor. They can figure out who they have because he's a solid defender. He hasn't hit much. He's been fine, but I think they give him a chance in the outfield to see if they can put something together.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing outside of obviously bullpen construction that Stearns prioritizes is run prevention. Defense is very important to every team that Stearns crafted. Brewers have been highly ranked, infield outs above average, outfield, all that kind of stuff. So he's going to put his best foot forward defensively, and that might hinder a guy like Marte. Maybe Marte gets some DH time against lefties. Maybe he's the other side to that Stewart platoon, which is obviously not what you want. But at this point, you're dealing with the cards that you have. You paid for Well, I think you were thinking you paid for the first 2 years on the Marte contract. Obviously, you only really got the first year, and you got to make do. But Tyrone Taylor, very interesting case here. I'm actually really excited that he was included in this Houser trade because I think I would have been happy if the Mets just made the Houser for Coleman Crowe prospect swap 1-for-1. I would have been a happy camper. The fact that you get a corner outfield included as well, a guy that's had pretty even splits over his entire career. He runs as fast as Harrison Bader, who's profiled as this fast guy, and was above league average offensively since 2021. I mean, these are all things that you like. He's a guy that's going to be a defensive upside kind of guy, and maybe the Mets can find some sort of talent here. I mean, he was a highly ranked prospect during his time with Milwaukee, a second-round pick. So, I mean, there's something there that I think Stearns obviously saw and wanted to keep around. And then I think Harrison Bader is just such an interesting one. He got way more money than I thought he would. And obviously, get your bread, man. Good for you. Good for Harrison Bader. And he wanted to stay in New York. But 1 year, $10 million. The tools are there. He's a great defensive center fielder. He's going to get Nimmo off his legs a little bit, maybe put him in left. Obviously a fast guy. And then the thing that intrigues me, which I posted on Twitter and got attacked by Yankee fans, which is natural, I guess. He had a 935 OPS against lefties last year, which is a very good mark, but 140 OPS plus range, and then a 503 OPS against right-handers, which is about a 400 tick difference, which is day and night in the offense. So, I mean, if the Mets just put him in opportunities to succeed, playing center field, facing lefty pitching, I think he can turn in some pretty good numbers and either be a key piece of this offense or be a lucrative trade piece at the deadline, what have you. But the Mets outfield, I think, is in a very interesting spot. I think a better spot than last year. Obviously, we love Tommy Pham, and I think that his time as a Met will be fondly remembered. But I think the upside, the athleticism, the defense of this outfield is exciting me.
Yeah, Stearns is known for his defense, up the middle especially. Shortstop, second base, center field. Nimmo didn't take a step back last year defensively, but he kind of fell into his average. He had a tremendous year defensively in 2022,
oh my God,
and he had an okay year last year. I like to me his where his most value is as a hitter, like as a getting on base percentage. Now he's hitting for some pop. He's a solid defender, but Bader is a true special defensive outfielder. I love bringing him in. I love giving Nimmo rest. You've got a lot of years left on that contract. Right. Nimmo can still play center field. I'm not taking that away from him. But I like the fact that you can get him out of there for a while. And Bader brings some defense. Obviously, those splits are crazy. I'm looking at his career splits. They're less so, not as extreme versus lefties and righties. Right. But they do tell a tale that he can't really hit righties up to snuff. So I think this is going to be a platoon thing. That's a lot of money for a platoon guy. I wouldn't be surprised if they find him more at bats. But he's special defensively. It's something that, as a fan of baseball, when you watch him play center field, you're going to enjoy what you see. Like, as much as I love watching Nimmo out there, he's not Harrison Bader. Like, that guy has a specialty, and that's defense. So I'm excited to see him chase some stuff down in the gap.
Totally. And I think you heighten Nimmo's defense by putting him in left field. That's easy ground that he can cover. Obviously, like you said, he can still be a good center fielder.
I worry a little bit. There's a reason why he didn't get moved off of center field, is not because he's worked hard like Pete Alonso has worked hard at first base.
Right. Pete's
serviceable, but it's repetition and it's hard work. The ball coming off the bat into left field is different. The way the ball, it's true in center field for the most part. It has some slice to it when it's going to the corner outfield spots. And I think Nimmo has struggled with that early in his career. Obviously, he's had a lot more experience now. I expect him to be fine in left field. But I think that was the reason why they haven't moved him quite as much in the past, because if he stays there, that's something easy. Bouncing back and forth, doing what McNeil does is not normal. So I think Nimmo, and again, he's got a heads up. He's got a full offseason to kind of, if they're going to play him in left field, they're going to tell him, and he can get some reads out there. So I expect him to be fine. But I really like seeing Bader play defense.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be moving around, right? McNeil's going to be at second. He'll probably be in right or left. Nimmo maybe center left. Bader in center. Tyrone Taylor plays both corner outfield positions. The two positions that I think you're going to see the same faces, or I guess three positions because you can include Alonso at first. Lindor is going to be at shortstop every day, and then third base. It's going to be one of two guys because they're getting the keys. It doesn't look like the Mets are in the running for Matt Chapman, so it's going to be Brett Baty or Mark Vientos. Will Vientos solve the defensive woes? Will he get DH time maybe against lefties? And can Brett Baty put the pieces together? Because if not this season, he's not going to be the long-term answer for the Mets, and they're going to have to figure something out for 2025 and on.
Yeah, this is a big one. And my heart goes out to Ronnie Mauricio and him blowing his knee out. This is a tough time. He was going to get the extended run that he deserves, some big time, big league at bats. He'll be fine. He has a good career, but this was a big year for him. And that was a good thing for Brett Baty because I think he's going to get more play. I still believe in him. I still think he's going to be okay. He's got some work to be done, and he's been willing to put in work. He wants to be good. He's going to do everything he can to be good, and we'll see. This might be a Justin Turner type thing where
maybe
his time's going to run out as a Met, and the Mets have to make a decision, and they might have to cut ways, and then he goes to another team. It happens all the time, guys. Baseball's different. Development is tough because there's a timeline, and so I still think he's the Mets' third baseman of the future. As far as Vientos goes, I think he's the right-handed DH for right now. And he might get some play out in the field. I'm not sure you'll see what David Stearns and the new front office thinks about Vientos as a prospect by how much playing time he's going to get. So it's interesting to me. I think he's just a bat, and I'm not sure he can play third base. I don't know yet. I haven't seen it a ton, but I haven't seen him do the work either. So I'm not there. I'm not seeing him put it in. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, point of all of this discussion is being when spring training comes around, the Mets are going to have a lot of fun battles for roster spots between third base and, Tyrone Taylor trying to get in the mix in the starting lineup. The Mets also added Trace Thompson and Zach Short, John Boy Media employee. Those guys are going to be trying to fight for a chance. Joey Wendell's in the mix. The bullpen is a whole nother discussion. The only thing that's really set right now are those top four and the rotation. It looks like that's what we're going into the season with. And when we roll back around in a few weeks for our spring training episode, that's going to be a big part of the discussion. Like, who are we favoring? Who looks good? Are there any injury updates? Like, what is going to go down in spring training? Because I'm sure while the Mets have a lot of answers to questions right now, they're giving themselves the chance to move things around and be versatile in the way that they set up their offense, which I think is, a given bonus. So obviously we'll see how things click, but at the very least, you're giving yourself options. At the very least, that's the way that Stearns has constructed this roster.
Yeah, last year they had zero flexibility.
Right.
And they were inflexible on wanting to be flexible.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Ronnie Mauricio was screaming to be called up. He was the hottest hitter in baseball for a long time and on a team that needed that offense, and then they were stuck in their ways, and they were inflexible in their ability to make a decision to allow a guy come up and be a spark. So I think this flexibility that they have gives them an opportunity to be successful in 2024, but their eye is on the bigger picture of being competitive for every year moving here on out, not tying themselves to a guy like Jordan Montgomery, who might be getting a 6-year deal for $200 million that's never really been an elite pitcher,
Yeah.
I understand that approach. The Yamamoto has a chance to be an ace, has a chance to win Cy Young's kind of talent. I don't think that's in the cards for Jordan Montgomery. Obviously, Blake Snell is a 2-time Cy Young winner, but he's got a lot of question marks on, is that sustainable with how many walks he has, with his, I don't know. He's not in the Garrett Cole level of Cy Young winner that I think. And so I like what they've done so far, not willing to just throw money just to get the players, just to satisfy a fan base that's wanting you to spend money. I think they're being smart about who they go after, when they go after it. And I expect next year to be a splashier, free agency, but I like the flexibility that they have right now. I think that's the key, is their ability if they don't like what they see, they can move pieces around.
Yeah. And I mean, as a parting note, as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to leave fans with this because it's something that I've thought about. Take the two teams that were in the World Series last year, Texas Rangers and Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks were the worst team in baseball in 2021. The Rangers were mediocre for essentially 6 straight seasons. And the Mets, they're in a position where they might be not putting their best foot forward necessarily in 2024, necessarily meaning spending as much money as they can, getting the best talent in the league on this roster. But it is for the bigger picture, like you suggested. Even the Braves, who had a ton of bad years before they returned to prominence and have won the division every year, they had really tough years in the 2010s, but they were building this farm system, conserving their money to put themselves in a position where they can succeed year in and year out. So if I look back on the 2024 season, and maybe it ends up a mediocre 75 win season, whatever it might be. But if I look back, and that's the last season that the Mets had a losing record, and they have this stretch of just greatness and competitive baseball for year in and year out, we're all going to view it as worth it. But right now, it's hard to, I think, accept that reality because we're in the moment of potential losing baseball and watching the Braves and the Phillies continue to run the National League alongside the Dodgers and stuff like that. So I'm going in with an open mind. I'm going in with the idea that this is a younger, more athletic, defensive upside roster that can produce. But at the same time, I think we have to temper expectations. It's a reality of the fact that we're not paying a starting pitcher $45 million this year. We're not necessarily going to be handing out a $200 million contract to somebody else. It's going to be the talent that we have and the talent that's already in the system. And there's no reason why they can't succeed. But if they don't, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised.
Yeah, I think that's the key. They took a gamble. The Mets took a gamble. It's Steve Cohen more than anybody because Stearns wasn't here.
Right.
Billy Epler's gone. They gambled on short-term, high return, hopefully, that the starting pitchers, and it didn't work.
Yeah. They
tried with Scherzer, and it didn't work. They tried with Verlander. It did not work. And that's where we are now. And they still have those pieces. This was always a build to the future. This might be the roughest year of that build, but it also might not be because they still have the top 4 that could be very good. And then they have some pieces. I don't think they have the pitching right now to win a World Series, but I don't think Senga is a true ace. I think he is an amazing pitcher, but you can't expect him to repeat last year. I think it's unfair. I expect him to be an all-star level pitcher. I would be upset if he doesn't bounce back, but he had any pitcher that comes to the big leagues and has success for a year, for the first year, there's growing pains on your sophomore season. I think he's better equipped than most because he's been pitching for a long time now. But I don't think anybody would pencil him in as an ace, on the level of what they were hoping for out of Scherzer and Verlander. But I do think he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch. And if he does go out and win a Cy Young, I would be on the top step for him. But I do think he's more of a number 2 guy if you're trying to win the World Series. I think that's why Yamamoto was their big target.
Right.
Because I think he's a true number 1. But man, I've been surprised before. Baseball throws you all sorts of different curveballs in this world. There's a reason why there's so many cliches in the game, but I think this team is got a shot to be competitive.
I think that's a good parting note. Sit on the curveball, and if a fastball gets blown by you, well, you'll get another pitch after, I think. But I think we tackled pretty much every addition and subtraction they made. You had anything else for me?
No, man. I will miss seeing Guillorme in a uniform. It'll be weird to see him in a Braves uni. Ugh. I know that's going to be strange. But I think we covered everything. We've got a lot of question marks, a lot of gambles that they're willing to push in for this year. And if they work out, they got a chance, man. Again, that's all you can hope for as a baseball fan is hope.
Yep.
You hope that your team can figure it out. And that doesn't happen every year. You remember the Diamondbacks. You remember, what they were you got a chance. You got a chance. And if this team is really competitive come trade deadline time, and they've put some pieces and some of these question marks become exclamation points, and Luis Severino becomes a number one, like he falls back into that form and becomes another level, they could go out and make a move and put this team together. You have hope. And so that's really all you want as a fan.
If nothing else, the 2024 Mets will be interesting, and I had a great time recording a Mets podcast with my friend Jerry Blevins for the first time in what felt like eternity. If you guys enjoyed listening to us, consider subscribing to the Shea Station YouTube channel, or leave us a nice review if you're listening in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We are going to leave you with a nice outro tune. We'll see you next time.
Jerry and Charlie.
Thanks for tuning in.
Station. Jerry and Charlie.
We're back, baby.
Hope you enjoy
Act like we never left.